Okay, before I say anything, just so you know, that thumbnail was a complete lie, and we will not be having to have that conversation until next season. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Titans Rundown. I'm your host, Micah McCamey, and oh gosh, yeah. Um, I had started to question, like, oh yeah, was Tannehill, holding this roster back? Was he just, not good enough, or something? Was he just not good enough to, propel this roster or anything? No, we're just bad. Yeah, no. Ugh. That was an ugly performance. Tampa Bay has not done jack since September, maybe early October, and we got absolutely crushed by them. Yeah, that was a very sad game to watch. I don't even have really any positives. Will Levis wasn't great, even though I will say that's not because it's not his fault. I promise you that. Don't listen to the casuals on the internet right now. But yeah, defense was not great. We had 3 sacks, decent, but I felt like that we couldn't get any pressure on the quarterback apart from those moments. And defensive backs are awful. Sorry, it has to be said. And hey, special teams is looking as good as ever, except for Nick Folk, but again, not his fault. We'll get to some stuff later. So today we're also going to be addressing what I said on the thumbnail, and like I said in the intro, you've already seen what my opinion is in the intro, but I will talk about that right after this right after the 2.5 to 3 minute segment where I just talk about something that's not Titans football related. So the Vols, what happened? Like that was atrocious. Like my gosh. Okay, I don't think I know that people are saying that Joe Milton had a good game. I'm sorry. Any player that plays for any quarterback that plays for Josh Heupel is going to have a good stat line, and people are going to think he played a good game. He was almost as mid as usual, and defense was really bad in that game too. Hey, bad defenses have been just a trend with Tennessee football over this past week, except for MTSU apparently. Yeah, this was a weird weekend, but yeah, oh yeah. So the high school football team that I record film for is going to the state semis right now, and we play against a really good team, and I'm really hoping that we can beat them, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. But yeah, wow, that segment, I'm gonna try and find something else to think about. Let me talk a little bit more about the Vols. So Joe Milton, I think is mid. I don't think we're gonna get anywhere better with him. I kind of hope that he has a really bad game against Georgia next week, and Josh Heupel finally has a game to point at to be like, yeah, that's why we benched him. Because honestly, I think it's Nico's time to shine. Like, I know it's UConn, but we saw him in that game. He looked calm. He looked composed. Made a couple of freshman mistakes. Obviously, you're gonna do that. But like, he was very smooth in the pocket. Like, he was able to evade the rush. Like, he's good. Like, and I want to take a shot at him because, like, I mean, let's take a look at this right here. Like, okay, after Georgia, you have Vandy. You have nothing to gain and a lot to lose. What if Joe Milton has a bad game and the offense doesn't have, I believe it was 300 rushing yards last year and carried Joe Milton into that win? Like, gosh, yeah. Um, again, I appreciate Joe Milton. I appreciate the fact that he came back and didn't just completely what's the word? He didn't completely give up on the Vols program, and he stayed there, waited until he could get a shot, and You know, I don't like I don't like Joe Milton, but for goodness sakes, it's so much better than having Taven Jackson. Dude can't even start at Indiana. Now, could we have developed uh could we have developed Taven Jackson a little bit better, and could we have made it to where you know he wouldn't have to get developed by Indiana? Yeah, maybe. But he's just no. But Um yeah, I think that I need to move on now. So if you watched that segment, thank you. I appreciate you. But if you didn't, honestly, I don't really care. We're just getting into the Titans content right now. And we are going to start out with my guy, Mike Vrabel. Now, I think that we need to start asking the question to ourselves, like, is he, like, okay, let me restate some of the stuff that I said earlier in the video. I think it's about time to ask if he was the captain of a really good team and he was just able to keep them afloat, or if most of those seasons were because truly he was a great head coach. But like he should not get fired after this year. Now, if he has $100 million in the bank and he has an actual left tackle and cannot do jack against the and cannot do jack and goes like 7 and 10, 8 and 9. That's whenever I'll be like, okay. We need to move on. Like, but for now, like right now, Vrabel is a good option at head coach. Okay. And we need to keep him for now. And unless New England comes knocking on our door, they fire Bill Belichick, they come knocking on our door and be like, hey, we'll trade you, like, we're going to fire Belichick and we'll trade you a first round pick to go get Vrabel. Then I will 100% be all on board for that. We get a first round pick and we go after a head coach. There is going to be someone, like, it would, like, people are like, oh, it would be really hard to hire a head coach right now. It's not. We have Will Levis. Now, not saying that he played as amazing on Sunday, because he did not play well, and I credit that to something else, but we'll get into that later. But like, they've got Will Levis, and I don't mean to sound like, oh yeah, we've got Will Levis, elite quarterback, top 5. No, he's not, not even close. But like, we have a quarterback that has shown that you can potentially build around him, and we have a quarterback that has a strong arm, is tall, has had experience in a pro style system before, and as long as you can develop some of his shortcomings, and you know he'll be good, like, honestly. But okay, so let's get into why I think Will Levis looked really bad, and I think why the entire offense just couldn't get going. It's the O-line. That was a absolute disaster by the O-line. Dude, right guard couldn't do jack. I love Chris Hubbard, but like, he is no Daniel Brunskill. Right tackle was Petit Frere. Petit Frere being Petit Frere. Skronsky I think he was fine, but again, I'm not too sure. Aaron Brewer played decently enough, I guess. And left tackle, I think it was Dylan Radins. I may be completely wrong on that. Don't fact check me. But Dylan Radins also played awful. We don't have a person that could play left tackle on our roster right now, except for Jalen Duncan. I'll get into that in a few seconds. But Daniel Brunskill being missing was probably the biggest X factor towards why this O-line was so bad, because he is the best offensive lineman on our O-line right now. It's not Skronsky, not yet. I think he has the potential to be. It's definitely not Andre Dillard or Aaron Brewer. And obviously, and Chris Hubbard's been decent, but he's not the best. Okay. But yeah, the O line was the biggest contributing factor towards why we played bad. At least that's how I feel. But um, let's take a look at the receiver core. Now, obviously, whenever Will Levis has like 2 seconds in the pocket to throw, like obviously, even if a receiver is wide open, 50 yards down the field, busted coverage, there's no one on him, Will Levis ain't gonna find him. And whenever he did actually find one, he throws a very good throw. And Nicholas, and no, not Nicholas Petit Frere. Golly, this team is warping my mind, guys. No, but seriously, Nick Westbrook-Akine has it right here, and he drops it. Like, you cannot drop that pass, for goodness sakes, brother. Like, you know, um, yeah, let's talk about the defense for a second. Secondary. What's going on? Christian Fulton? You were supposed to have a breakout year this year, get a contract extension. And you have looked like one of the worst defensive backs in the NFL, potentially the worst. Sean Murphy Bunting, you've been decent. I'll give that to Sean Murphy Bunting. He's been good. Roger McCreary's had moments, but like, just oh gosh, Christian Fulton has kind of ruined that secondary. Amani Hook, the safeties aren't really that great. Amani Hooker can be really good, but he doesn't have, anyone to help him, so that's wonderful. D line, Jeffrey Simmons is not as great of a pass rusher as he could be. But I think that's going to be what ends up holding him back from being like he's an A tier defensive lineman. I still do not regret. There are Titans fans right now that are like, man, we shouldn't have given him that much money. I would not regret that at all. Jeffrey Simmons has been very good for us, and he deserves all of that money because he is one. Because for goodness sakes, he's one of the only bright spots on our roster right now. That's the truth. And that D line, like the D line, they're not great at getting to the quarterback, but like getting to the running back. Oh yeah, they're great. Like, but so I think it's about time that instead of looking forward to, well, I'm gonna look forward to the next game in a few minutes, but like instead of thinking about the next game, all that I'm gonna be thinking about is mock drafts. I believe we're in the top 5 in mock drafts right now. So like we need to go out and get a left tackle for Will Levis. That's the first thing. Okay. I can't remember. I don't really have a good feel for the prospects this year. Second round, go get just a decent enough receiver to support D Hop or something like that. Like get like a big body guy too, like a big body guy that can just his jump over his defensive back. And if you want to add another receiver in free agency, honestly, D Hop ain't getting any younger. We know that. Um, Let me think about something else. Get a defensive back in free agency, because the only way that the defensive back that we have a defensive back that's going to help right now is if we get one in free agency. Because a cornerback in third is usually like a cornerback 3, maybe 2 at best, and the rest of the rounds are just depth. Like maybe like go get a backup offensive lineman, maybe get a center, maybe get. I mean, shoot, I wouldn't be upset about us getting a kicker. I mean, I love Nick Folk, dog, but he's getting old, you know. But like, okay, let's talk about Mike Vrabel a little bit more, because yes, I said that's not yet time to, completely fire him, because like the only way that I do see us being like we need to fire him is if he has that roster next year, if it's hyped up to what if it ends up being what we think it could be, and he goes like 8-9, then yes, we fire him then. But right now, like there are some things that really worry me, like the conservative play calling. Like he probably whispered, like he's like why did you take that? Like it was 4th and goal. You take the field goal. That was bad. the other field goal, 51 yards. It's 4th and 2. You're in their territory. Go for it. You have Derrick Henry in your backfield. Why don't you go for that? Okay. And I'm not even going to blame Tim Kelly as much. Like, people are just like, oh, yeah, I look at the film, Tim Kelly, awful offensive coordinator. Now, I've got to see, like, Tim Kelly with an okay offense. Like, I'm not going to blame Tim Kelly until I see him with, if he has a good offense next year and they're about to score, 20 points a game, then yes, I will be very disappointed. But, like, you know, oh yeah, Shane Bowen. There are not that many people that I feel strongly about on our coaching staff right now, but no, Shane Bowen's got to go. Like, I feel like our defensive backs are not good enough to get coverage on a 4-man rush. We need to blitz a little bit more often, at least to me, because he's so conservative. He's not using the biggest strength of our team, aka O line against D line. Like, that's ridiculous. Yeah, I do think if there's anyone that I think should be fired on that staff, it's Shane Bowen. And what makes me really upset is that we had potentially the best defensive coordinator in the NFL at one point. Why would Mike Vrabel let go of Jim Schwartz? Dude is anchoring one of the best defenses in the NFL right now in Cleveland. Like, I know Myles Garrett, and, like Greg Newsome, and there are good players on that defense, but, like, we have good players, mostly on the D line, and our linebackers are also pretty decent, but, like, everybody else, like, come on. Like, Jim Schwartz may have been able to develop those guys, and they may have ended up being decent. And are we also not going to talk about how the defensive coordinator after Jim Schwartz left because Vrabel took away his because he yeah. Ooh, I didn't take a deep breath because he took away his defensive play calling. Like, come on, man. Let's also talk about the fact that, okay, the only thing that I would ask about for potentially getting rid of Vrabel, he's not good at hiring a staff. Like, that's not a GM thing. A head coach decides who his staff is going to be and who he wants to hire. Let's take a run through of everybody that has been a coordinator. He had good offense. He had a good defensive coordinator at first. He had Jim Schwartz, but again, let go. Let's go through. Okay, so we got Matt LaFleur, who was okay as the offensive coordinator. He went on to get a head coaching job with the Packers, and now it's just he's not a good head coach. I'm sorry. Like, he had a couple of good years with MVP Aaron Rodgers and the best receiver in the NFL. Like, come on now. He's obviously. I think that I could head coach that roster and they would find a way to go 11-5 and make it through the playoffs. Like, and I've never played I've never played a down of football in my life. Uh, um, you've got Arthur Smith, bad. No, wait, hold up. Don't get mad at me. Hear me out. Okay, he's not bad, but I don't think he's as good as we give him credit for. I think that he actually looked really good because of AJ Brown. That's my opinion. I think they had some nice moments, but I overall felt like that he was kind of carried by AJ Brown into his head coaching job, which now you can see. Now that he's the head coach of Atlanta, he refuses to use Bijan. He refuses to use Kyle Phillips. He refuses to use Drake London. He uses Tyler Algier and Jonnu Smith. That's ridiculous. Like, come on, bro. Like, I would be drooling over that talent. Like, Mike Vrabel would be using those guys all the time. But, like, okay, so, I keep on going. Todd Downing, he actually, like, we thought that he was decent after that first year, but then we watched the divisional round where he was on third down whenever we could very easily have gone into overtime. He decides, no, let's throw it. Let's throw the ball with the man who has 2 interceptions this game so far. Now, yes, do us Tannehill to blame for the decision that he made with his tight end open? 100%. But you cannot call that play, especially with a quarterback that's had 2 picks already. Like, you can't. Like, yeah, Downing was an awful train wreck of an offensive coordinator. Okay? Like, people talk about Matt Patricia and Mike LaFleur from that year. Nobody ever talks about him because, we're small market, but, like, that's ridiculous. So, yeah. Oh yeah, Shane Bowen's also been pretty bad. Tim Kelly, I don't have a good feel for. I think that he's going to be decent, but anyway. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to preview the Jaguars real quick, and then I'm going to wrap this episode up, I promise. I know that I've been a little more lengthy with this episode, but let's go right into this. So we got the Jags. No. No, 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 no. We are going to get absolutely boat raced in that game. Like, it is going to be ugly. Let me tell you that much. That's going to be a hard game to watch. It's going to be tough. Like, I think that we could end up playing okay, but yeah, no, I don't think that we come out with a win. Unless Will Levis goes for another 4 touchdowns, which I don't think will happen. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. Like, this team is not good enough to beat the Jags. And frankly, I think that Doug Peterson is a better head coach than Mike Vrabel. There it is. There, I said it. But anyway, I have Instagram, Twitter, and for anyone, I have TikTok as well. And for anyone that's listening on podcasting platforms, I have YouTube where I have shorts. Sometimes I release like 10-minute videos about like this or that. But yeah, all of them are under the same handle as what you are watching right now, the Titans rundown. But anyway, that's gonna do it all for me. This has been a rundown of your absolutely hot garbage Tennessee Titans, which may end up doing us a favor in a few months from now. I love y'all, and tighten up.